we're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Thursday, May 28th here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Luan.
Good to be here.
Good to have you also choose with
Hello,
us.
Soo-jin.
And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So we're heading towards the end of the work week, and today we're talking about a place you might want to add to your weekend plans. So today we're going to be talking about Hanok, Korea's traditional houses that are becoming popular travel spots and staycations. So, Jun, have you ever stayed at a Hanok before?
Yes, I have actually stayed at Hanok accommodations several times with my family and also with my foreign friends who are from America and Japan. Well, first of all, my family, they loved it. My children love exploring the special place of Hanok. Well, they were fascinated about the Hanok traditional furniture because it's totally different from the modern ones. And as you can see, I once I stayed in a beautifully restored Hanok near Gyeongbokgung Palace with American friends and their children and their kids. They were especially curious about how people used to live there. They asked me so many questions, and as you have seen, we actually brought some hanbok, Korean traditional costume, because since we are staying in Hanok, why don't we do a special thing? It was not a holiday, special occasion, but we just brought some hanbok, that is, Korean traditional costume. And also we played Korean traditional games like 공기놀이 and 윷놀이, 제기차기 as well, as you can see in the Squid Game Netflix series. Well, the atmosphere of Hanok, it feels calm, elegant, and timeless. One of my favorite parts of visiting Hanok and staying in Hanok is sitting on tenmaru. Tenmaru is a wooden floor in front of the room with a cup of tea, feeling the breeze, air, and relax a little bit. Because tenmaru is actually designed to have let fresh air inside, the flow in through the room, and also have a space to provide some place for relaxation for people, residents. It really makes you switch off a little bit from your busy everyday life. So in fact, even the air feels more polite in a Hanok.
I've always felt like even during the hot summer days, like when you're inside a Hanok, it doesn't feel as hot. So it's really amazing what Korean architecture looks like. So what about you, Luan?
I have stayed only once in an Hanok while doing a tour with my foreign friend in Chungcheondo, and I've got a great memory of it. It was in summer, and it was really not hot at all, really fresh inside it. And the Hanok itself looked beautiful and peaceful outside, but once you enter it, it really felt like I was in a historical drama. It was cozy and pretty while being traditional. And I was worried at first about sleeping on the floor, but the duvet was thick enough to be really comfortable. I also remember that a traditional Korean dinner was included in the Hanokstay, which let us live the traditional Korean life at 100%.
That sounds amazing. So it also sounds like a really full Hanok experience, from the traditional atmosphere to also the food. And I can see why I felt like stepping into a historical drama, which is why I'm sure a lot of people also like staying at Hanoks. So we're going to talk more about this, but first, let's take a look at the screen. With their elegant wooden architecture and timeless charm, Hanoks are recognized as a unique symbol of traditional Korean culture. Their appearances in Korean films and dramas have also drawn growing attention from visitors around the world. Today on News Generation, we take a closer look at the features and appeal of Hanoks, along with some of Korea's most famous Hanok destinations. Just as we saw in the video, Hanoks are more than just traditional homes. They also reflect Korea's history, lifestyle, and philosophy. And to better understand their significance, let's first take a look at what exactly defines a Hanok. So what exactly is a Hanok, Jun?
So this is the moment I should turn into a Hanok expert, Hanok tour guide from now on. Well, Hanok, basically, it means it's a Chinese character. Han means Korean. Hanguk, and also ok means house. So a Korean house means Hanok, a traditional house built in Korea. Well, of course, Hanok came in many different forms depending on the social class of the people living in there and also the time period. But what's interesting is that the term Hanok itself wasn't commonly used back in the days, in the past. The term Hanok itself actually became widely used during the modern era when Korea began introducing more foreign architectural style buildings such as Western style buildings, Japanese buildings. People began using the term Hanok in order to distinguish traditional Korean houses from foreign style buildings, that is, excuse me. So when people think of Hanok these days, they usually picture elegant traditional houses with wooden pillars, clay walls and tiled roofs, yes, which are typically associated with upper class families. One interesting feature of Hanok architecture is that it was designed to harmonize with nature using natural light, airflow and seasonal changes very thoughtfully. Examples include features like ondol heating systems, wide windows, deep roof eaves, open courtyards, which is a garden, and tenmaru wooden floors, as I mentioned before. So all designed to work naturally with the seasons and airflow as well. So no smart home system, but smart design.
Right, so this is all really interesting because Hanoks are often thought of as classic tiled roof houses. And Hanoks may look very different from modern homes, but that contrast is also part of their charm. So what was, Juan, your first impression of a Hanok?
The first time I saw a Hanok, I thought that it really fit well with the Korean landscape, like the mountains and the hills. It really fits perfectly with it.
It does.
And so while looking at it, I always thought, wow, I want to maybe live there once I get old. And it really felt relaxing and peaceful. I really enjoy watching Hanok village, yeah.
Yeah, every time I go see a Hanok, it's like I do want to live there and see what it's like. So it's easy to see why people find them relaxing and peaceful compared to modern city life. But beyond their appearance, Hanoks are also designed in ways that reflect harmony with nature. So what are some other defining features and charms of Hanokstay?
So an expert in Hanok is back again. I'm going to explain you all the details and the charms of Hanok. Well, Hanok makes you feel calmer. Since when you enter, the moment you enter into the place, walking into a Hanok almost feels like your stress levels drops automatically. More than anything else, Hanok feels very open and refreshing because they are designed to let in plenty of natural light and fresh air. Well, in the past, Koreans believe that energy of the land and nature could influence people's lives and their well-beings. So houses were often built in bright locations and designed to live in balance with nature. So for example, many Hanoks were built facing south in order to receive more sunlight during the winter season, which is probably why south-facing apartments here in Korea are still considered more desirable. Another lovely feature of Hanok is how naturally the indoor part and the outdoor spaces connect with one another. The wooden floor areas and courtyards flow together, so the boundary between the house and nature almost disappears. And I also love the long eaves of Hanoks, which are known as choma. They block strong rain and sunlight beautifully without needing walls or shutters. So even the sunlight feels more elegant in a Hanok.
So I think those long curved roofs really is what kind of gives Hanoks that calm and elegant atmosphere. And Hanoks are not only popular among Koreans these days, they've also become a familiar image to many people overseas. So how well known have Hanoks become among foreigners, Soan?
So yeah, if you're even a little bit interested about Korea, such as K-dramas, K-movies, K-food, Korean history, they have probably already heard about Hanok, the traditional Korean house. Hanok are frequently shown in historical and modern K-dramas, TV shows, and even music videos, which has made them increasingly recognizable among foreigners. Today, visiting a Hanok village has almost become a must for many tourists visiting Korea. Many people first discover Hanok through trendy Hanok-style cafes that are especially popular in Seoul. Because of social media and Korean culture content, Hanok are now often associated with both tradition and aesthetic beauty. One place that has recently become much more famous among foreigners is Hanok village. It used to feel like my hidden gem because I was living there to it. But it really became famous because of its peaceful atmosphere and beautiful view of Bukhansan mountain. But it became very popular on TikTok thanks to its scenery. Compared to more crowded places like Bukchon Hanok village, Eunpyeong offers a quieter and less touristy experience. For foreigners looking for a calm and authentic Hanok village, I would highly recommend it. Hanok are now quite well known among foreigners, especially among people who consume Korean media and see traditional elements in a modern city or go to beautiful cafes.
I actually also visited Hanok, and I was just taken away by how many there were available, and it's so well kept too. So beautiful. So all this shows how Korean culture content is helping introduce traditional architecture to global audiences as well. And for visitors coming to Korea, there are now many places where they can experience Hanoks up close and also everyday settings. And to get a more personal and in-depth perspective on this, we're going to be joined by a content creator who has featured Hanoks in his work. That conversation will take place right after the break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out Channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
And joining us today is Bart, a travel content creator. So hello, Bart. Thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Bart, so what was your first impression of Korean Hanoks, and what inspired you to want to create content featuring them?
Oh, I remember the first time I came to Korea, I fell in love, and I think everyone will, with the aesthetic of Hanok. You know, in a hyper-modern city like Seoul, it's such a breath of fresh air to see a traditional house standing in the middle of all those high skyscrapers, those high towers. Yeah, just when you see one, you just want to take a photo with it. That's the feeling I have when I see a Hanok. The first photo I took in Seoul was in 2017. It was in Bukchon Hanok village. So there are some areas in the city where they are well preserved, but when you live in Seoul for a longer time, you also start to realize that even though they're scattered all around the city, there are many places where they are disappearing. They are high maintenance, it costs a lot of money to preserve them well, and sometimes people don't have that money or don't have the time and willingness. So they sometimes need to make place for newer modern buildings. And when I saw that, that's when I realized, okay, it's kind of important for me as a YouTube content creator to also feature Hanok more often in my videos.
It makes me want to cherish them more, the Hanok. So, which Hanok destination was your favorite and why?
Oh, it's a weird one. So I used to live in Songsan-dong, Mapo, near Mangwon-dong. And every time I was commuting somewhere, I passed a very big Hanok surrounded by a red brick wall. It had these high ondo chimneys, a huge garden, but seriously, no one in the neighborhood knew anything about the Hanok, knew nothing about the history, nothing about its story, about its owner. I even asked a grandmother who has lived in the area for over 60 years the story behind the Hanok, and she told me something that later turned out to be completely wrong. Then one day, I was filming nearby, and I saw that the owner just arrived at the Hanok, and he was trying to get in. So I took my chance, I ran up to him, and I asked how old the Hanok was, and he said it was over 100 years old. And that he himself, he was born 80 years ago. That's how old he was. He was born 80 years ago in that same Hanok. And then all of a sudden, he invited me to go inside. And I even get goosebumps talking about it because it was just one of those places in the city I was so curious about. Suddenly, I was invited by the owner to get inside and have a look myself. And inside was just... It was so beautiful. It's hard to explain, you know, when you go to Hanok in Bukchon, for example, they're open to tourists. They're so neat, so clean. They're so, you know, for tourists to be seen. But this one wasn't. It was a Hanok where someone lived in for a long time. It wasn't cleaned up for tourists to be seen. So you could really feel how people used to live in a place like that. So yeah, that is one of, you know, my best Hanok memories I have.
So lovely, Bart, indeed. And also knowing the history of Hanok is quite important. Well, then, Bart, what are some must-try experiences when staying in a Hanok?
I wanted to say do a Hanokstay.
Okay.
Well,
and how can you fully enjoy? the charm of it?
You know, I love the Hanok because you can go in any season. I mean, you talked about it before, right? In winter, you can feel the heated floor, the ondel system. It's just such a unique feeling, also hard to explain. But when I came to Korea, I never felt anything like that you can just lay on the floor and be comfortable on a wooden floor, right? But you can come in summer, open all the shutters, all the doors, and just feel the fresh, cool wind going through the building and not feeling hot at all. You have your own garden. It feels very private. Just such a unique experience. So I want to tell everyone who comes to Korea, do a Hanokstay. 1 night, 2 nights, even longer, and that will be your best memory. Guaranteed.
I think the experience that I want to have is what you just shared about being able to kind of see what it's like to actually live in a Hanok. That sounds like such an authentic experience. So that sounds really cool.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned it earlier, right? It feels like you're stepping into a historical drama, and I think that's exactly what it is. You for a night or 2 days or 3 days, you live like the upper or like upper middle class, like they did during the Joseon dynasty, right? That's what it is.
Right. I think it's one thing to see something like really cleaned up and nice. That's also a great experience. But seeing what it's like for someone who actually lives there is a whole different feeling. So
yeah, and
really
that as a
cool.
tourist, it's kind of hard to experience, right? Because you gotta knock on someone's door and say, "Hey, can I have a look inside?" And I'm not sure if they are too happy with that. But you know, these days, many of these Hanok, they are turned into cafes or guest houses. So it's quite easy for you to have a look inside.
Right. That's a great way to experience it as well. So thank you so much for sharing your experience with us today.
I mean, you talked about everything already. I didn't have much to add to it. But thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
We just spoke with someone who shared the cultural beauty and architectural charm of Hanok. So now let's take a look at some of the most popular places where people can experience them in person. So what are some famous Hanok destinations in Korea, Chia?
Well, discovering Hanok villages in Korea is like creating a never-ending bucket travel list here. Well, first of all, I would like to recommend Bukchon Hanok village. We talked about this. It's probably the most famous one in Seoul. Some scenes in K-pop Demon Hunters were inspired by it. A Hanok village isn't just one traditional house. It's an entire neighborhood made up of Hanoks. I think I just saw a friend's house over there in Samcheong-dong area. I actually used to visit those places quite often because one of my friends, she used to live there, and I even stayed overnight a couple of times. And the second place is that Seoul also has Hanok villages, like in areas like Eunpyeong-gu or Namsan. Eunpyeong Hanokmaul and Namsan Hanokmaul are quite famous as well. What makes them especially fascinating is seeing the traditional tiled roofs mixed with Seoul's modern skyscrapers, whole buildings in the background. So basically, it almost feels like the past and present exist side by side. And the last one I would like to recommend is Gyeongju in Gyeongsang-do province. Is another famous destination because it's filled with historical sites from the Silla dynasty. The architecture there feels quite different from the more familiar Joseon-style Hanoks. We are familiar with those one in Seoul. It's Joseon-style Hanoks. Then what are the differences? Gyeongju represents the older Silla period, which had a stronger Buddhist atmosphere, while Joseon-style architecture, the ones that we are used to, focused more on simplicity and order and more influenced by the Confucian culture. And last but not least, I would like to mention this place. It is Andong Hahae Folk Village. People still actually live in these places. Well, my family, my last name is Kwon, and my family is originally from the Kwon, the Andong Kwon clan, and some of my relatives are still actually live in these areas in the Hanok, in Andong. Well, and also the village still strongly preserved. They protect the traditional family customs and culture. So even they offer guests to stay inside. So if you are willing to have some Hanokstay, please visit these areas worth trying. So Hanok villages are basically Korean version of time travel.
That's a great way to put it. So I think that contrast between traditional rooftops and also modern skyscrapers is what makes Seoul's Hanok village especially unique to me personally. So beyond traditional sightseeing, some Hanok spots are also drawing attention from global Korean content fans. So what are some Hanok sites especially popular among Hallyu fans?
Yes, many Hallyu fans visit Hanok because they want to experience places that they saw in K-drama, K-movies, or K-show. Bukchon Hanok village, is probably the most famous example, like Juhyun said, since it often appears in Korean media and is very accessible for tourists in Seoul. Historical sites such as Gyeongbokgung Palace are also popular, especially among fans of historical dramas. Many foreign visitors even rent hanbok there to recreate drama-like photos. More recently, quieter places like Eunpyeong Hanok Village, like I mentioned before, became popular through TikTok and Instagram because fans enjoy the aesthetic atmosphere and traditional scenery shown online.
I think I actually ended up visiting Hanokmaul because of I saw on Instagram.
Yeah, me too, all the time.
Foreign tourists visiting. So I was like, oh, that sounds actually cool. So yeah. So Hanoks may be rooted in tradition, but they continue to evolve as a unique part of modern Korean culture. From peaceful stays to famous filming locations, they're offering both locals and visitors a new way to experience Korea's history and charm. And whether you're a fan of architecture, travel, or Korean content, Hanok might just deserve a spot on your travel bucket list. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. But News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time with more stories and discussions. A big thanks to Mulan.
Thank you for having me here.
Coming in, also Chia.
Lovely to be here.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this will inspire you to book a night under a Hanok roof. We are
News Generation.